The shadows that haunt me. It was a beautiful summer evening when it all started. The sun was setting, casting a beautiful orange hue over the sky. I had just come home from work and was looking forward to relaxing on the couch and watching TV. However, as soon as I entered my apartment, I sensed that something was wrong. The air felt thick and oppressive, and there was an eerie silence that made my skin crawl. I dismissed my sense of unease as my imagination running wild, and I made my way to the living room. As I turned on the TV, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. It was a shadow, flickering and darting across the wall. It looked like the shadow of a man, but there was no one there. I got up to investigate, and as I approached, the shadow disappeared. I told myself that it must have been a trick of the light, or my eyes playing tricks on me. However, as the night wore on, the shadows continued to haunt me. Every time I turned on a light or walked into a room, I would see them. Shadows of people, animals, and objects that had no explanation. I started to become obsessed with the shadows, spending every free moment trying to capture them on camera or figure out where they were coming from. My once comfortable apartment had become a prison, and I was trapped in a world of darkness and fear. As the weeks went by, the shadows became more and more intense. They would extend their tendrils to reach out towards me, as if trying to suffocate me. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't live like this anymore. I was going insane, and I knew it. One night, as I was lying in bed staring up at the ceiling, I saw a shadow that was different from the others. It was darker, more intense, and seemed to be trying to communicate with me. I could feel it pulling at something inside of me, as if it was trying to draw me closer. I was terrified, but I couldn't look away. The shadow spoke to me in a language I couldn't understand, and at first, I thought I was hallucinating. But as it continued to speak, its words grew clearer. "Come closer," it said. "Let me show you the truth." I couldn't resist its command, and I got out of bed and walked towards it. As I approached, the shadow grew darker and more intense until it enveloped me completely. I could feel it creeping into my mind, taking control of my thoughts and fears, and I knew I would never be the same again. The shadow began to show me visions of a different world, a place where darkness and evil reigned supreme. I saw creatures and beings that I couldn't comprehend, and I felt their hatred and malice burning into my soul. The shadow whispered in my ear, promising me power and knowledge that I couldn't resist. And just like that, it was over. The shadow released me, and I fell back onto my bed. I was trembling, sweating, and crying, but I also felt something else. I felt a new strength and power inside of me, something that I had never felt before. From that day on, the shadows no longer haunted me. They were a part of me now, and I controlled them. I could summon them on command, and they would do my bidding. But with power comes darkness, and I soon found myself slipping further and further into the abyss. My friends and family began to notice the changes in me, and they became afraid. But I didn't care. I was beyond fear, beyond reason, beyond humanity. I had become a shadow, and the world was my playground. One day, I was summoned to a dark place, a place where the shadows gathered to worship their dark gods. The beings there were powerful and ancient, and I knew that I had found my true home. They welcomed me with open arms, and together we plotted our revenge against the light. We would reign supreme over the world, and the shadows would always haunt those who opposed us. We would bring darkness to those who lived in the light, and we would never stop until we destroyed everything. And so, I left my old life behind, and I became the Shadow King, ruler of the darkness. The shadows that once haunted me had become my greatest weapon, and I wielded them with deadly accuracy. I was no longer human, but something else entirely, something far more dangerous. And as I looked out over my shadow kingdom, I knew that the darkness would always haunt me, but it would never defeat me. The shadows were my greatest ally, and together we would rule the world forever.